Okay, here we are. Simplifying radical expressions. Now you've done this before. You may not remember. I know you didn't like it, but it's really not the toughest thing that you have done. Before I get into this, let me ask one thing of you. See, here's a worksheet. Here's notes. This I need back. This I don't need back. Now I do have the copier staple them because it makes it easier for me to put them into your notebook and keep everything together. Do this. See how easy that was? Send this back. Don't send this back. If you will do that, I would be ever so grateful. Okay, here we go. Simplifying radical expressions. That must mean that there is work to do in each one of these exercises, and there is. When you have a radical expression, it's asking the question, what two numbers, the same number, got multiplied together to equal this? Sometimes you can find it, sometimes you can't. Another way to think of it is, what number squared equals this number? One good practice is, just go ahead and take your calculator, take the square root of that number, see if it turns out to be a whole number. So square root 125, enter. It doesn't. It's a decimal, so we know that it's not going to be that easy. So what do? Well, we want to break this number down to its prime factors. Prime factors are these numbers here, and there's even more of them. But I think you probably won't have any prime factors any more than 29. Probably won't have one that's 29. So I'm going to work number one. The square root of 125n. Now n is to the first power. Because it's to the first power, there's nothing you can do with it. In the final answer, you're going to have just a single n, and it will stay under the square root symbol. If it were n squared, then we could do something with it, and we'll look at some like that in just a moment. So here I go. First thing I want to do is discover, well, what two numbers can I multiply together to get 125? I've given you a multiplication chart, but if you can't find the number on there, one thing that you can always do is get your calculator out, go to y equals, type that number in, divided by x. So what this is going to do is it's going to tell you all the numbers that you multiply together to get 125. To get to that list, just push second graph. Now there's the table. And if you look, 5, 25. 125 divided by 5 equals 25. That means 125 is 5 times 25. So 5 times 25. Now if these two numbers were the same, then we would be done factoring. But they're not. On my list, I know that the 5 is a prime number, so I'm done with that 5. Now, what two numbers can I get that multiply together to equal 25? Because I don't have a pair yet. So go back to y equals, type in 25 divided by x, second graph. And, oh, looky right there. 5 times 5. 5 times 5. 5 is prime, and 5 is prime. So I'm done factoring. 125 is 5 times 5 times 5. Now some of my students like to write it out this way, and maybe you will too. 5 times 5 times 5, and then we have an n. Like I said, there's nothing that you can do with the n. Okay, do we have anything that we can square? In other words, are there two of the same number or letter underneath the radical? And there is. This 5 and this 5. Those two 5s are going to come to the outside of the radical as a single number. On the inside is 5 times 5. On the outside, it's just 5. Why is that? Because you're trying to find the number that was squared that equals whatever you have under the radical. What number squared equals 5 times 5? Well, it's 5. So mark those two out, write them on the outside. There are no more pairs underneath the radical, so now we draw the radical and we write down what's left. 5n. So the answer to number 1 is 5 square roots of 5n. That's it. That's the whole answer. Alright, let's scan the paper and let's look at number 10. The square root of 200, m to the 4th, n. Alright, I like that one. So let's get our piece of paper back. Square root 200 m to the 4th n. A couple of things we recognize right from the start. This n is to the first power. It's not going anywhere. Just like on number 1, it's going to stay underneath the radical and it will be in the answer. All right, let's analyze what we have here. We've got 200 m to the 4th and n. When I break this down, one thing I know about this number 200 is it is 2 times 100. 2 is a prime number. It's in that list that I gave you. 100 is not a prime number, but you know about 100. It's 10 times 10. Prime, prime. What about m? It's m to the 4th. So it's m times m times m times m. 4 m's got multiplied together to equal that. Okay, so here we go. The square root of 200 is the same as 2 times 10 times 10 times m times m times m times m. That's and times n. Now we're going to go find our pairs. There's a 10 and a 10, a pair of 10s. So on the outside we have 10. And then we have a pair of m's and another pair of m's. And that's all that we have of pairs. So we write down everything that's left on the inside of this radical. And now we can clean this up. Alright, so we have 10 times m to the 2nd power, because it's m times m. Square root 2n. That's it. That's the entire answer. Right, let me find another one. Let's go to the back. Let's look at number 25. Negative 4 times the square root 216 x to the 2nd y to the 2nd z. Right. Why, Mr. Mackey? Why? Because you don't tear your paper away from your notes. That's why. I'm just kidding. Or am I? All right, 216 x squared y squared z. We might get lucky. Let's try it. Let's go to our trusty calculator and type in square root 216. Nope. It doesn't turn out to be even numbers. So we go to y equals. We type in 216 divided by x. Second graph. Woo! Well, let's see. I can use 2 times 108. I can use 3 times 72. 4 times 54. 6 times 36. 8 times 20. There's a lot of factors for 216. Let's see. I'm going to pick this one right here. 4 times 54. Because I know something about the number 4. So here we go. 4 times 54. Here's what I know about 4. It's 2 times 2. Those are both prime. Now all I have to do is worry about this number 54. Go back to y equals. Type in 54 divided by x. Second graph. Well, let's see. 54 is 2 times 27. 3 times 18. 6 times 9. Let's use 6 times 9. I know about 6 and I know about 9. So here we go. 6 times 9. 6 is 2 times 3. Prime, prime. And 9 is 3 times 3. Prime and prime. As far as the number goes, there's nothing left for me to factor for the number. Now the x is x times x. The y is y times y. The z is just z. Let me put this all together. So on the outside I still have that -4. And on the inside I have 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 3 times 3 x times x, y times y, z. All right. Now we're ready to do a little work. So on the outside we still have -4. Here's a pair of 2's, so times 2. Here's a pair of 3's, so times 3. Here's a pair of x's, so times x. Here's a pair of y's, so times y. And then on the inside, what is left? 2 times 3 times z. Okay, let's clean it up. That's all that's left. -4 times 2 is -8. -8 times 3 is 24. So -24 xy on the outside. And on the inside, 2 times 3 is 6 with the z. And that's it. Alright. Yes, it's going to take you a little time to do, but you can do it. Use the calculator like I showed you. Look for pairs. Sometimes you will be factoring something like we did the 200, and you get two numbers that aren't prime, but they are the same. Well, you can stop breaking it down right there because you found your pair. Or it might be that you have to continue until you get all prime factors and then pick your pairs. But you can do this. If you need help, give me a call. We can meet at the school. Just send me a message. I can be up here in about half hour, 45 minutes. Call me. Call the school. They can get hold of me. But don't sit there and just kick yourself in the head. If you need help, I'm here to help you. Thanks. Bye.